And we are back. Welcome to the Soapbox, where people who work, volunteer, and care about recovery tell us who they are and what they're most passionate about. My name is Richard Jones, RN, and I represent Parenting Your Child and Recovery.com and the home website, secondstarts.com. That's number 2NDSTARTS.com. Today, my guest is Jason Shiers. Jason is a trained psychotherapist, but he's developed a revolutionary approach to helping, suffering, addiction, trauma, and mental health. So, before we go any farther, Jason, hello, how are you doing? And thank you for being here.
Hi, Richard. Thank you for having me, and pleasure to be here. I'm curious to see where we go with the conversation, and appreciate the invitation. Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you. Listen, Jason, I start off every show by asking everybody give us that Cliff Notes version of Jason, sort of how you arrived at where you're at, sort of, and just give us an overview. Tell us who Jason is and what he's about.
Yeah, I'm not just a professional who works in the field. I'm someone with lived experience. I'm someone who spent many years in addiction as a professional and as a service user, and starting in early childhood with a traumatic loss of a parent, and very early entering into the psychiatric system, into the being diagnosed with depression and medicated, and then as a teenager being sectioned, being psychotic, out of control, being medicated forcefully for all sorts of different things, massively overweight, withdrawn, became a heroin addict at 13. 14, and jails, institutions, and psychiatric wards was really the teenage and early 20s years, in a desperate attempt to escape myself and my reality and my world, because it just felt like I was a victim of a shit life, of what had been handed to me, and it seemed like oblivion was the only way to avoid that, and then I decided I got clean when I was 23, and it was already, I was already homeless by that point and living in a homeless shelter when I got clean, and things were pretty desperate. And after a while in the 12 steps, I put down drugs and alcohol, but I picked up food, and I picked up desperation, like for sex and love and relationships, and I picked up desperation for money and status and prestige, and I picked up desperation for anything that would make me feel better, other than drugs and alcohol. Okay. So really the addiction just swapped from one thing to another. Mm-hmm. And people used to say, you need therapy because there's something more wrong with you. It's not just addiction, you've got other problems, and I'd be like, okay, that's the thing, right? So I need to go to therapy. So I found a therapist, and I thought, this is pretty good, I thought maybe if I could understand this, I could help myself. That's what I thought. That was my thought about it. So I started training to become a therapist. And after multiple qualifications and many, many years of training, I kind of still had this. By this point, I was 15 years clean. I had a life. I had a career in IT. I had a child. I had a house, a home. I had many cars and different things and bikes and stuff. And I had built all this stuff that you would call a great life. On the outside, people would look at me and go, wow, he's doing well. He's got years of clean time. He's celebrated multiple years in recovery so many times, speaking at meetings, running a home group, sponsoring people, all this stuff. But inside, I was desperate. Inside, I was still battling with food. My weight was up and down. I gained and lost over 300 kilos over those years. Like massively overweight to massively underweight to massively overweight. I had multiple cosmetic surgeries. I was desperately seeking for new relationships, even when I was in relationships, obsessed watching pornography, couldn't control my eating, but people thought I was doing well, and after all the therapeutic qualifications, and they said to me, you can open your own practice now. You can be a therapist and specialize in addiction, a subject so well about. And I thought, shit, if you only knew, it's kind of like I've got secret addictions that you don't even know about, and even my clients have got secret addictions that nobody knows about apart from me, mm-hmm. And so I was really perplexed with it all, it felt incongruent. It felt like my clients were lying. I was lying, it's kind of like who was really helping who, and was there any freedom from this thing called addiction? And I went on a journey, I decided that I'm going to not give up, on this quest to find the answer. And,
Okay.
after many years in doing things like Tony Robbins and the Hoffman process and the Landmark Forum and spiritual inquiry and different things, I came to a place of finding freedom for myself, of like, and it happened overnight. It did not
Okay.
happen through hard work. I had a belief that all transformation requires hard work,
Right.
but actually that was proved completely wrong, because overnight I was probably 20 years clean, and I was desperate, and I had secret addictions. I was overweight, and I was struggling and financially insecure. No matter how much money I had, my relationship was in tatters. It was a mess. And overnight, it transformed completely, like to the point where I contacted my therapist of 7 years, and I said, I don't need therapy anymore. I'm okay now. I've just had the realization. My eating disorder to this day, over 10 years later, has never come back. It left me
Okay.
that day. My need for any psychiatric care left me. I've never been back, from that day. My practice as a therapist transformed unrecognizably, and the work that I do with people changed completely, to the point where I started seeing people change, like in my sessions pretty quickly. They were not
Okay.
suffering in the way that they were when I was practicing in a traditional way as a therapist. And my relationship, most importantly, my relationship with myself transformed, to the point where I thought I was okay, like really, not just a
Right.
look in the mirror and convince myself okay, like a real knowing that I was okay, and
Jason, I got a question for you off the top of my head. I'm listening to you talk.
yeah,
Something's hit me. You had really had a lot of experience with, just to put the turn of phrase, the downside of life before you started your, official training.
yeah,
When you were going through that training, were you feeling were you feeling that something wasn't hitting right with the training, or did you feel like taking that type of training would bring you
yeah.
to the right way?
I think that's true for all people, Yes, exactly the second one, Like, you just don't know any different. If you've never done a training before, it's experiential, it's re-traumatizing, it's dark. It was very dark for me. I went through a depression during my traditional psychotherapy training. There's a moment in my book that I talked about that I can remember. My daughter, she was about 3 years old. She's 16 now, maybe. Oh, wait, I can't remember. To get the ages mixed up. She was young anyway. She was a baby. And I used to go in her room in the morning, and she had this high level bed, and it was like where there's like a desk underneath. And I would like look in the door, and I would see if I could see her little chest moving, And it's like, because she was the only joy that I had,
Okay.
and it was like, and if I couldn't see her moving because she was under the covers somewhere, I'd go in, and there was the bars on the side of the bed, and I slide my hand inside. And as soon as I could feel the warmth of her,
Mhm.
it was like, oh, like such a fucking relief, because it's
Yeah.
like I really felt like like she'd be gone. That's how dark it was for me at that time. And so that was like what it was like when I went through training for me inside myself. It was a dark time, but I didn't know any different. I just thought
Right.
this was the way you had to go.
Okay. All right. Uh, Before we move on, I just want to remind everybody or tell everybody that if you're a parent, a mentor, or a practitioner who loves, cares, or works with a young adult family in risk or in trouble or in treatment, parentingyourchildinrecovery.com is I like to say, unique non-clinical modality that accelerates and multiplies the results and leads to a more permanent recovery. Uh, Jason, I want to put you up on the soapbox, so I'll get you here, and I'm going to just sort of check your mind out, because in truth and advertising, I want to tell everybody, when I saw Jason writings on LinkedIn, it kind of really spoke to me, because he was saying to me was a lot of common sense. And a lot of times in the medical and recovery game, I've been a nurse for 40 years, we dabble in a lot of non-common sense. So when you see it, it sort of perks your ears a little bit. Jason, so up on the soapbox, I want to start off. I want to get you to talk to me about something that to me is at the heart of this. Just the power of insight in coming from what you really are, instead of the illusions that
Yeah.
we take on.
Yeah, like this is where I differentiate. Like in my world, I say mental health and mental illness are not the same thing.
Okay.
Like mental illness is a man-made construct born of the human natural tendency to create cause and effect. This is
Okay.
happening. What's the reason for it? Now we can fix it. Like mental health is a natural state, when we're not suffering. It's like what's inside all of us. It's what we're born with. It exists in every person. And like now my job seems to be more uncovering that in people that is veiled, is not gone, is never
Right.
missing, but uncovering that and helping people see that state of natural well-being that exists within them. And that's a completely different direction to move into the traditional system, or what other people might understand as a pathology-based model where we're trying to fix something that's wrong with people.
Okay. You're right. Um, you say something and you talk about understanding over technique, and I think that's a lesson we all who are call ourselves helpers, we could delve into a little bit more. Talk to me about understanding over technique and what that means to you.
Yeah. Like many, like I was trained in the traditional model of psychotherapy. Like we trained in techniques, in ways to help people. It's like, here's what's going on. There's a model, a framework. Where do you fit the people? Where are they right now in their ego state? Where are they right now in their life script? What's
Right.
playing out for them? How, and so on and so on. And it's like, fit them in this. And then if they fit in here, you do this with them. If they fit in there, you do that with them. Like that's the framework, traditional therapeutic model. Or if you're in a 12-step model, they've got the disease, they need to admit their powerlessness, they need to hand over their life, and they need to find a higher power. That's like your technique, your way of pushing them or directing them, depending which model you're in. Everyone's got a different way. But understanding over technique is like, it's like that the client has well-being. So
Right.
you're not trying to get them anywhere. Like it's the difference that I call it's not a plaster on a bullet hole solution. It's not a temporary respite, but it is a lifelong
Okay.
discovery of value of who they are. Once the client knows they have well-being, they don't need you every time that they have a struggle. They might have
Right.
conversations with you, but you're giving them something for life, a connection to themselves. You're helping them connect to themselves, in which case they connect to their well-being, in which case they connect to their own wisdom, in which case the small, quiet voice within gets louder and they can hear and be
Okay.
guided from within themselves. So the understanding part, you have to understand yourself first. You can't just learn it as a technique. It has to come from within you, because that's the only way you can truly
Gotcha.
know it experientially. And when you know it for yourself, it's true for everyone too. It has to be true for everyone. And when you come from that place, the client can feel that something about them that they don't. Something good about them that they don't.
Okay.
And they get curious. They're like, well, this guy seems to know something about me,
Mhm.
having a capacity for well-being, having the capacity for recovery, having the capability to change my life. This guy believes in me. Like, maybe I should believe in me. That's what happens in the client, and eventually
Yeah.
it changes. It's
Mhm.
very different to saying, here's what's wrong with you and I'm going to help you fix it. That's a completely different orientation.
Mhm. Okay, and I like that mindset. I myself believe that is one of the reasons why I'm quick to let everybody know when I'm dealing with specialty practitioners. Is I want to let you know this is a non-clinical approach. And I want to say that up front, because as soon as I say clinical approach, then automatically you go back to the belief something's broke with you, and I'm going to fix what's broke with you. And I agree with you. I don't think that's necessarily fixing the broken thing is not necessarily what gets a person there. I
Yeah.
want to ask you this, and I don't want to get you in any trouble on this one. Okay, we talked a little bit about it, but you said something. This show has a genesis in talking to people in recovery. The illusion of addiction. How
Yeah.
do you see addiction as it really is, instead of how we have constructed it as practitioners and helpers?
Yeah, part of the same, like
Mhm.
if I'm seeing the good in you, like, as that's my job, it's because I really see the good in you. That means I'm not just being nice to you. I'm not saying, oh,
Right.
come on, you're all good. I really know that you have it inside of you. In which case, I also know that addiction cannot be a fatal flaw or an unexplainable phenomena. I know that it can only be an intelligent coping mechanism. You know, it is like, an addiction in my world is, it's never going towards something. It's not because I like heroin. You know, I don't go towards heroin. Like, if I like heroin, what is it that I dislike instead? What do I not have? If I like this, what do I not like in here? So it's like, biologically first, right? We're not psychological first, we're biological first. If a tiger jumps out on you, you don't go into your thinking and work out what to do. You just dart off, you know, it's like, it's quick escape time. The same way your biology is leading you at all times. So if inside my body is at dis-ease, not disease, but dis-ease, you know, is uncomfortable, even if I can't sense it, if it's been suppressed and repressed, you know, it's kind of like, then reaching for something outside myself biologically is a good idea, because I'm going to get rid of the internal disease. So that's what it is. It's an intelligent coping mechanism, a response to early life adversity or internal adversity that is unbearable to be with, whether conscious or unconscious, you know?
Understood. I briefly talked to you about this on our last conversation, and I kind of want to bring it up again because the answers were just so striking to me. I want everybody else to hear it too. I had joked around with you and said to you something to the effect of, I had a problem with the phrase evidence based.
Yeah.
Okay. And I liked how you put that, and I want to hear that again. What do you think about using the term evidence based and the effect that it has on the people that we're trying to help? They know that phrase almost as well as we do, and I'm
Yeah.
not sure they have a better answer for it than we do. So,
yeah, it's something to lean on that sounds official, right? And it almost says to the client, if you don't comply with this, like, that you're a failure. That's what the client can believe, because it's evidence-based, it must be right. If it's coming from a doctor, it must be right. If someone's saying it works for so many people, I'm broken then if it doesn't work for me. So in the way, it's creating the idea of the fatally flawed, or the terminally unique, it's not for me. And like, the thing is, when you dig into it, when you look at what it means, what is the evidence that they're talking about, it's only performance markers, because true healing cannot be measured. Like, how much more capacity do I have in me to sit with my feelings? How much more capacity do I have in me to be in relationship with you if you're not behaving how I want you to behave? How much more capacity do I have to listen to other people? That's healing, like when I have a bigger capacity in myself to be in relationship to myself and to others in life. Whereas that's immeasurable stuff. And in evidence-based, they're measuring things like completed 28 days without taking a drink. Okay, maybe the next day they committed suicide. Maybe they left suicidal. Maybe inside themselves, they were feeling suicidal. Maybe they were secretly taking drugs. We didn't know about it, but they stayed the 28 days. Maybe they were having unhealthy relationship with men and women behind closed doors that nobody knew about. Maybe they were online gambling, but they still completed the 28 days. Evidence of success, and it's like, then we use what I call performance markers. Completed treatment, showed up for all the sessions, checked in after 90 days, has got a job, and all this stuff. Nothing to do with whether anyone has transformed inside themselves or got any more capacity for life. Everything to do with ticking boxes, getting funding, and getting more money.
Exactly. The second one, and this is you really go into this very well too, especially looking at your history. And if anybody goes to your website, which I have on there, if you go to that website, you can really get a chance to hear Jason tell his story. So you'll know he has a qualifiable relationship with trauma.
Yeah.
So yeah. So I brought up the phrase to him, trauma informed, which I've been brought to me a number of times. Give me your idea on how you feel about trauma informed and what its relationship is to actually dealing with and helping people reduce the pain of their trauma. I use that phrase.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not helpful in reducing people's pain of trauma. I mean, it's like the newest buzzword, or a new buzzword. It's been around for a lot of years, but it's become more well known since the Wisdom of Trauma movie with Gabor Mate that was released, and now everyone's proudly announcing that they're trauma informed, as if it's some form of qualification or makes them have more capacity. Now, like, what I differentiate, there's nothing wrong with being trauma informed. It's information, it's learning something. There's nothing wrong with any study,
Yes.
as long as you understand the limitation of it. So being trauma informed, by its very nature, the word informed, information, it's the same word. So information is retained in the mind. It is information based. It is not transformation based. It is not widening your capacity to be with your clients. It is not widening your capacity to be with yourself. It is not giving you deeper it's not giving you deeper insight into your clients through transformation within yourself, because it's nothing to do with transformation. It's to do with information. What's needed is what I just talked about. Needed is personal transformation, journey to yourself, internal capacity to be with your clients, because you can only know, clients are only a mirror to us. That's what they are. They mirror our own wounding. So unless you have that relationship with yourself, just information in your mind, it's not going to inform your presence. It's not going to inform your relational capacity in the moment to be with somebody. And those are the only things that are healing: presence and relational capacity. Your client's nervous system doesn't give a shit about your PhD. It doesn't care. It cares about, are you here? Are you with me? Are you holding my hand right now? It's kind of, can you hold me while I fall apart? That's what it cares about.
Okay. All right. Before we move on, I just want to remind everybody, if you are the parent, mentor, or practitioner who loves, cares, or works with a young adult, either at risk, in trouble, or maybe even in treatment right now, parentingyourchildinrecovery.com is a non-clinical option that accelerates and multiplies the results that different therapists and everybody are getting, and people or helpers are getting with their people. So parentingyourchildinrecovery.com. I want to ask you, before we go on, let's move on. Look, I want to get to the projects, and I wanted you to talk to me a little bit about your book.
Yeah.
And is it named the same name, Infinite Recovery Projects, the book also?
Yeah, that is the name of the book. Yeah. Infinite Recovery Project is an alive work in progress. It's like, because it can't be a fixed way, because there has to be aliveness, in what I'm doing. So that's why the book took me so long to write, because I was never satisfied and it kept changing, and it's still, that's why I'm writing a second book, because my understanding keeps changing, and it is really about, it's not about me. It says very clearly in the book that it's about you, the reader. It's like that. I don't have I said somewhere in the start of the book, if you pick this book up looking for answers about addiction, you probably got the wrong book. I don't have any answers for you, but I know you have the answers. And the book is about helping you find the answers within yourself. It's not about following the new way, or infinite recovery is the thing I'm doing. It's not about that. It is about helping you understand that what the journey within means. Like, what does it mean? Like, how did I get my idea of mental health, mental illness, of addiction and all that? Where did it come from? Who installed it into me? And like, is it true? Is it really true? Like, then if it's not true, then who am I beyond these labels that I've stuck on myself? And it goes through all this, like, addiction and trauma, and a lot of the common misconceptions, like, are there answers in the past? Do we need to go back to the past? Are we really powerless over addiction? Is that true? And it's just an investigation for you to go on, like, for yourself. Like, is this true? Like, who told me this? Where did it come from? And so on. And I help people to see that in a methodical way, like, to see that these things are not true. Then there's something left at the end of it. You are still here. You still exist without the labels. And who are you beyond that? So it is really what I call, the second book I call The Journey to Yourself. And it's all, the first book is giving you an existential place to stand that's of well-being. It's like, it's a shift on the okay corral. Most people come and they believe they're not okay, so it's a shift on that okay corral to being, I'm okay and everyone else is okay too. And the second book is more about how do I go to myself? How do I go into myself? How do I learn about myself? Where do I go and how do I go in there? Because many people don't really know that.
Okay. There's an associated workbook with it.
There is with my main book, yeah, and it teaches contemplation and reflection as an essential tool. You know, like how do I learn about myself? And it asks you a lot of questions and gives you a space to answer them. The questions are not for me; they're for you. Like if I see this question and I write it down, I'm going to learn something about myself. Where does my belief about mental illness come from? Like, isn't that worth asking yourself? Like, if you believe you have a mental illness, where did it come from? Who gave it to you? Is that true? Like, where did they get it from? Do you really know where it originated from? Do you know that there's no such thing like as depression as a cause of the experience of depression?
Right.
Like, do you know that for sure? Like, if don't trust me, like investigate it for yourself. Ask yourself that question. Do I know where it comes from? No, I don't. Then is it worth me checking it out? Okay, then. So if I investigate myself, I come to this place of going, okay, then this is just made up. You know, somebody made it up one day and now they're telling everybody and I just believed it. And now I'm going around saying this thing, depression, is causing my misery. There's no such thing as depression causing misery. You know, depression is an explanation for misery. It's not a cause of misery. So educating yourself, like questioning yourself, is what the workbook is about. It's not a way to, it's a way to uncover your innate well-being. That's what it is, you know.
Okay. Jason, as we get ready to round out, explain to me, what does it look like working with you? What does that look like? When someone is to, if they contact you, what kind of drive do you take them through and get them introduced? How does it look to work with you?
Yeah, we look at different things. You know, there's an orientation work, like who am I? Like, where's my experience coming from? How am I myself? How did I get to be myself? There's there's spiritual work, there's relational work, like in relationship, what happens in this space that's created between us, you know, because that's what's happening in all relationships at all times. And there is somatic work, like what's happening in the body, you know, like what's showing up for me right now in my experience. So it's a learning to be. Most people have cut themselves off from their body and become like a walking head, you know, as a way of coping with life. And it's like return to the body, return to expanded capacity to feel, expanded to capacity to be with myself, you know. So it is really a journey that we go on together, non-linear. You know, it is not a straight A to B thing. I don't give you the steps and you just do it. I'm not here to tell you to stop or to force you to stop. You know, it's like what people usually do when they get connected to themselves again, you know.
Okay, very, very, very good. Jason, I want to thank you for coming. But before we go, I want to ask a real quick question. Tell me a little bit about, what does Jason do for fun and relaxation? I know you chop away at what you're doing, and you got a lot of passion for what you do. But what do you do for relaxation?
Yeah, that's good. I like two wheels. I got a motorbike and a mountain bike that I love to go on. I love to work out, and I love mostly time with my kids. You know, it's very rewarding to be with my kids and go on little adventures. I like simple stuff, you know. I like nature. I like outdoors. I like sea. I like water. You know, I'm not into. The only thing I like that's expensive is sometimes a nice steak.
Okay.
But other than that, you know, I like simple things, and I love the presence of people. I love to be in relationship, and especially my kids and my loved ones and stuff, you know.
Very, very good. Jason, I want to thank you for coming. You need to go to the website, and if you need to contact Jason, he has so much more to talk about. You got a half-hour show. We could go on for 4 hours with this subject, I'm absolutely sure. But
Yeah.
I want to thank you for coming on and give us the benefit of your knowledge. And again, everybody, I think it's a good idea if you check Jason and his workout, and I think you will find it beneficial and enlightening. So, Jason, again, thank you. And for myself and Jason, I wanted to remind everybody, remember to help somebody get better. Remember to help somebody stay better. And most importantly, let's remember to help somebody be better. Thank you, Jason. Thank you.
Thank you.